Starting with news from Sri Lanka, the cascading effect of the country's ongoing economic crisis has now led to deepening political instability. Protests have rocked the island nation for weeks now, with people coming to the streets to demand resignation of the Rajapaksa government. Mahinda Rajapaksa, Prime Minister, was heckled by protesters today. During his visit to Sri Mahabodhi tree in the holy city of Anuradhapura, people with placards chanted slogans against him, demanding his resignation. The Prime Minister is slated to meet top Buddhist leaders during his visit to the holy city. Usually, leaders visit the city to get blessings before big events and ceremonies. The visit comes after Sri Lankan Buddhist leaders reiterated call for an interim administration, saying that it should be established with the cooperation of all political parties to resolve the present crisis in the country. In a letter addressed to the Prime Minister, President and the opposition, the leaders of the three main Buddhist sects of Sri Lanka called on the government to take immediate action to bring political, social and economic stability in the country. Now the visit comes days after speculation that Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa might step down. Media reports suggested last week that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had agreed to form an interim government and that he had asked his brother Mahinda Rajapaksa to step down from the country's Prime Minister post. But no official confirmation in this regard has come till date. The Sri Lankan Prime Minister's office in a statement said no such request has been made. Meanwhile, sources also say that Mahinda Rajapaksa will make a special statement on Monday for this. In the opposition camp, there are some signals of unity. According to latest reports, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and its 11 affiliated parties as well as independent MPs have now agreed to support the no-confidence motion against the government. The motion has been proposed by the main opposition party, that is the SJB here. This came just days after the group of independent MPs called on the opposition SJB to respond to certain queries on the no-confidence motion. The MPs in a letter proposed two options to the motion. However, with the latest report of them now supporting the no-trust motion, there is no clarity whether the conditions have been dropped or if the demands have been incorporated. The SJB in a statement said that they will extend support to the Bar Association of Sri Lanka proposal after a series of meetings attended by the leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, Chief Opposition Lakshman Kharela, SJB members Thalatha Otukorola and Ajit P. Pereira amongst others. Remember, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka had presented 13 proposals to bring about political and economic stability in the country. The Bar Association's proposal emphasizes complete abolition of executive presidency as the fundamental requirement in resolving the crisis. The SJB echoed the statement and said that abolishment of executive presidency is the primary need. The world is watching Sri Lanka, which is fighting its worst economic and political crisis currently. A lot has happened. The island nation has been put under a state of emergency. The re-elected deputy speaker has resigned again, with diplomats urging the president to revoke the emergency orders. Tensions are running high. Whether this sudden move will bring in some positive changes or will it push the country to further uncertainty? For more on this, we're now being joined by Ambika Satkunanathan. She is the former Commissioner of Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. Thank you so much for joining us from Colombo at this hour. What is your take to begin with? What is your take on the current situation in the country? What and who do you think is to be blamed for the economic and also political turmoil?
Well, the current crisis is something that has been in the making for decades, economic as well as political, but definitely things have come home to roost. And this regime is largely responsible for that because of their refusal to take advice, their policies which were ill-conceived. So definitely they have to take responsibility, which they are refusing to do. Even now, the president, as you said before, it is the prime minister who there have been conflicting stories. Every day we hear rumors which are denied less than sometimes a few hours later. So to date, we still have not heard about the president resigning. That is the main demand of the protesters, along with the demands for the entire family stepping down. The protests are ongoing. They're not only in Colombo, they're also outside Colombo. We have seen also the police inciting violence and then using that as an excuse to perpetrate violence against the protesters. But the protests are largely peaceful. And of course, as you mentioned, the state of emergency has been issued, but emergency regulations have not been issued, because unless the regulations are issued, the state of emergency, in a sense, is of no use, because it is the regulations that say which rights are restricted, whether the police or the military are given extra additional powers, etc. Even about a month ago, when the president declared a state of emergency, he did not issue emergency regulations. And within 14 days, less than 14 days, actually, he rescinded revoked the declaration. So the emergency was declared day before at midnight. As of 3 p.m. today, I checked even just before we started the program, the regulations have not been issued.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Also now, let's talk about this. Bar Association's proposal emphasizes complete abolition of executive presidency. You just touched on that as well. How effective do you think these strategies will prove to be?
Well, the executive presidency is something that it's a bane of our lives, I would say, because a lot of the institutions, public institutions, were rendered powerless, politicized because of the executive presidency historically. That is also one of the demands of the protesters. Now, we have the Bar Association's proposals. We also had a few weeks ago the main opposition, the SJB, tabled the 21st Amendment to the Constitution, which is also focuses largely on abolishing the presidency and also making public institutions such as the judiciary, such as the Human Rights Commission, independent again. How effective they will be depends on whether the current regime is listening to what is going on outside, because it seems they are disconnected from reality and they do not understand or choose not to understand the demands of the protesters, but their popularity has plummeted all-time low. As you said, the Prime Minister himself who was a revered figure and who was the most popular member of the family, was just booed when he went to Anuradhapura. So it depends also on the opposition, because at the end of the day, to pass any amendment, constitutional amendment, you need 2/3 majority, which means you do need to get members of parliament who are part of their regime and those who have now broken away from the coalition and claim to be independents, but we're not really sure yet. You need their votes as well. So it also depends on the effectiveness of the opposition, of rallying all these people together to get the votes.
All right. Now, again, just for some clarity on this, going forward, what are some of the urgent steps that you think the government must take in order to navigate the nation out of this crisis, apart from the Rajapaksa regime stepping down?
Well, I think the IMF debt restructuring bailout package, that is in the works, but and of course we need bridging finance. Our main problem, economic crisis, is that. But of course, we also need a government in which the people have confidence to tackle this. We need the government to step up, to take responsibility, and to also propose solutions. This government clearly has shown it is not capable of doing that, and it has also lost the confidence of the public. So in order for Sri Lanka to seek solutions, immediate solutions and long-term solutions, we really do need this government to heed the call of the people and to step down.
All right. Ms. Satkunanathan, thank you so much for joining us with your assessment and insights on this.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.